When statistics show crime is falling, can they be trusted? That's the question being examined in a series of hearings by the Commons Public Administration Committee. Its Conservative chair, Jenkin, told me why.
This inquiry is something of an accident. We never intended to have an inquiry into crime statistics, and it was only because a certain Metropolitan Police constable presented himself at my advice surgery in my constituency, Constable James Patrick, that I realised that it might be fruitful to do an inquiry, because what he told me was very disturbing. And then we had the evidence where he presented that alongside other people from the Metropolitan Police, which made a very, very compelling evidence session that whether it's by accident or design, whether it's malign or whether it's just institutional habit, there is a considerable degree of manipulation of crime statistics.
And this is what Constable Patrick told them about practices in the Metropolitan Police, Britain's biggest force.
I did some analysis around serious sexual offences and rape. In the course of doing that, I found that no crimes, which is a way effectively of establishing that a report is no longer a crime to be investigated, were incorrect in about 80% of cases.
80%?
Yes. That's my professional opinion based on what I looked at. It was 80% of cases.
He looked at exactly what was happening.
This really concerned me. The direct quote was, "They are pursuing a strategic investigation to justify the no crime." So effectively what they would appear to be doing, and I read this in the notes, and you can see it, you can read it.
So they're putting resources into trying to downgrade the crime instead of solve the crime?
Yeah. You can physically see this in the notes. Obviously I can't go into the individual reports because that would be inappropriate, but you can physically read that they are actually attacking the allegation of the victim rather than look at anything else first.
The evidence became even more startling.
It appears to be the perception that serious sexual offences being undetected is a dirty word, so the preference has developed to try and justify no crime on the basis of mental health or similar issues of vulnerability, or by saying that the victim has refused to go on to disclose to them. Now,
so this would finish up with trying to persuade a victim that they weren't raped, for example?
Effectively, yeah.
And Dr. Patrick, you're nodding at this.
Yes, but not in the nodding sense we've spoken earlier. This is my experience as well, that this is, you can see that in the investigations that have been carried out, that victims are being pressurised.
That was Dr. Roger Patrick, a former Chief Inspector in the West Midlands Police, being brought in there by Jenkin. And this week the committee followed up with evidence from Professor Stephen Shute, the chair of the government's Crime Statistics Advisory Committee. He told the Select Committee there was an error rate in recording crime, but it wasn't possible to tell purely from the numbers whether that was because the figures were being fiddled.
I've no doubt that there's been dishonest manipulation at one end, through willful blindness, to misunderstanding and ignorance, to the inappropriate exercise of discretion within a complicated set of rules. The Home Office counting rules extend to 400 pages. They need to be translated in a way that allows police officers on the ground to use them appropriately. And that's not straightforward.
Labour committee member Paul Flynn underlined why the committee was so concerned.
Crime statistics on which police promotions are sometimes based, decisions on massive spending are based, and whole policies of government and police are based on crime statistics.
Yes.
And you're telling us that all the information we have is at best impressionistic. We have no clear guide to the accuracy of crime statistics provided by the police.
I don't think I said that. What I did say was we don't know how much of the under-recording and misrecording, particularly the misrecording, is down to willful, dishonest activity by police officers, or indeed willful blindness, rather than simply errors or failures to interpret.
So what did Jenkin make of that?
Well, the statisticians were very purposefully, in my view, confining themselves to commenting about the numbers and the statistics. They were not getting involved in the politics or even in the judgment about how serious it is. They were making very professional, dispassionate points, but they were quite clear that there is under-recording, for whatever reason, of recorded crime. The Chief Constable from Gwent, I thought, was interesting because he started out, I thought it seemed a little bit defensive, with things that he'd clearly thought about and wanted to say, which weren't necessarily direct answers to our questions. By the end of the session, he clearly realised we weren't there to just beat him up. We were generally trying to understand, and I think as he began to understand that, he opened up a bit.
And this was the Gwent Chief Constable, Jeff Farah, who's also the National Policing Lead for Crime Statistics, explaining the pressure figures can put officers under.
I'm working as an inspector in a locality. I'm being asked to reduce bicycle theft by 10%. This month it looks like I'm going to reduce them by 18%. What do? Do I tell people to slow down? Because next month I'll be judged again? Or if I'm only reaching 6%, what do I do if I've tried everything ethically to reduce that crime appropriately? The message I send in my own force is it's not about the numbers, it's about the service that we actually provide, and that is what's important.
That line of argument had committee members nodding, and Bernard Jenkin told me the committee's next move would be to follow up the specific allegations they'd heard.
Clearly we need someone to answer for the Metropolitan Police. It would be reasonable to invite the Chief of the Metropolitan Police, and clearly it would be reasonable to have the Deputy Mayor for Crime and Policing, and it would seem reasonable for a minister to explain why their initial reaction to the James Patrick evidence was this is all yesterday's news, it's yesterday's problem and it's been dealt with, because I don't think that's the case.
Bernard Jenkin.